So dear students, I welcome you all for the online learning platform for the course Warehousing Automation. So under this honors degree registration, so you students are pursuing this course and now we are in unit 3 where we'll get into the next topic for discussion. So earlier presentation we discussed about the ROI calculations and now we'll think about the risk assessment. So when you just observe the syllabus, we just discussed about the project planning. Then from there we migrated to the feasibility analysis. From the feasibility analysis part, we discussed about the financial feasibility. Then we came back to the cost analysis. So then the first part, that is the first half of chapter 3 was with respect to ROI calculations. We did some few numerical problems in this regard and now we are in the risk assessment stage. Then it gets into the technology part. So that's how the syllabus has been framed. So now we'll go for the risk assessment. So risk assessment. So before we get into the term risk assessment, now we shall understand what does the term risk confined to. So risk from a dictionary perspective, a possibility of something dangerous or unpleasant happening, a situation that could be dangerous or have a bad result. So this is what risk is all about. So everybody knew the basic understanding of what is risk. So now to put it down from a dictionary perspective, a possibility of something dangerous or unpleasant happening, a situation that could be dangerous or have a bad result. So this is what risk is all about. And now, what sort of risks can we expect in a warehouse? So that might be a question mark among all of us. So that is what this particular uh, chapter is going to deal about. Now, RA risk assessment refers to the process of evaluating risks to the safety of the workers. So here obviously not only with respect to warehouse, any case, anybody who works on any system or a process, they are supposed to adhere or abide the safety rules and regulations. So in a warehouse, what all are the different types of risks the operators or the workers are subjected to, and this risk assessment process is going to assess certain things and to evaluate the risk. It is going to quantify the risks, and based on that we shall draw some sort of conclusion and adapt some methodologies so that the risks are going to be minimized. So it refers to identifying workplace hazards on putting into place protective measures that would help control the risks of these hazards. So it is going to come out with some sort of corrective or rectification measures in order to minimize these risks. So risk assessment helps to eliminate any hazards that can potentially damage the functioning of warehouse and cause harm to the resources that carry out the operations. So here resources, why the term resources is very crucial means, please do not have a perception that resource means only human. Human are one of the resources, but other resources are even a machinery is a resource, the rack what we use, the material handling systems what we use, any types of equipments inside the industry is considered to be resources. Not only in an industry, in a warehouse case, whatever the thing we use for any purpose is considered to be resource, and all these resources to be safe. Of course, human finds the place in the top priority, but however, this is going to be applicable for all the cases. Now, before we get into the risk assessment, we'll understand what all are the possible and potential accidents which occur in a shop floor based on the previous history. So these all are the leading causes for workplace injuries. So there are 10 injuries have been listed here with respect to the percentage of their significance. So the first contributing factor with respect to a volume of 25.7% over exertion involving outside resource. So over exertion in lifting, pushing, pulling, turning, throwing and catching. So this is going to be in the value of 25.7%. So what is overextension is when a person is unable to do, or in other words like this, a person who does a work which is beyond his scope. Okay, a person is able to carry only 10 kgs of load, let us put like this, but a person deliberately is doing something beyond his capacity. The maximum weight what he can lift is 10 kgs, but now deliberately he does something like this, and that gets into, and that is called as overextension, beyond one's capacity. So that accumulates to a percentage of 25.7%. Then followed by 15.4% on falls on same level. Same level means on the same floor itself. So that means another question might be there. Is it some other level is there? Yes, that is also been in the part of the fatal injury where people can susceptible to. So 15.4% of students fall on the same level. Okay. It might be due to steps climbing or in an uneven surface, or they fall on some objects, or some cases they trip over themselves. That means having the part itself, they just fall along with the part. So these all are the different types of risks which has been reported in the past. The next 10.1% struck by object or equipment. Okay, non-transport powered vehicle, that is something which is stationary, they go and they just get struck by means of, they unknowingly they just go and hit the thing which is stationary. That might be a rack, that might be a non moving vehicle, something like that. Stationary things, they go and hit deliberately onto it. So that accounts to a percentage of 10.1. Then the next 8.9 falls to a lower level. Okay, so earlier case we saw about falling on the same level. This is lower level. While climbing something from a higher altitude to a lower altitude, they just fall. That is going to be 8.9%. So in the case of physical process automation, we discussed about vertical racking. So carousels carrying two different levels. So while climbing, if they fall, that's going to be fatal because the aisles are very, very narrow. The aisle between, that is the gap between two successive racks, are very narrow. So obviously they are prone for some sort of a catastrophe is going to be happen. So we need to be very cautious in this regard. Then the next 7.6 over other extensions or bodily reactions. So it is very common in a household scenario, something which falls underneath the bed means cot means obviously we try to crawl and then get, so that leads to some sort of injuries. Okay, so that is 7.6%. Then the next, slip or trip without fall. Slip on subjects without fail, trip or uneven surface without fall, trip over self without fail. So that is going to be 3.8%. Next 3.5%, repetitive motions involving micro tasks, typing, key entry, texting, mousing, repetitive use of tools and equipments, repetitive grasping, placing and moving objects. So that leads to some sort of activities, 3.5%. See, we can't just like that omit the fact that only it is negligible, say 3.5. No, even 1% means it has to be accounted properly. Then the next, struck against object or equipment. Okay, earlier case we just discussed it is a non-moving, but here also the same case, but the thing is out of emergency or out of some unnoticing the things, we just go unstuck, and that is going to be in the order of 2.9%. 2.8% caught in compressed by equipments or objects. So caught in running equipments or machinery, compressed or pinched by shifting objects, entangled in other objects or equipments. Likewise, it go on 2.8%. So why do we do all these things? We'll see in the upcoming slides. But before that, you should quantify even a single accident or single injury. One, you should analyze what's the reason for the injury. Now, this is the question what we need to go ahead with. Why should I do this risk assessment? Or in other case, why should I account all these injuries, and why is it necessary to note down the possible reasons for injuries? Because they are the potential areas which gives us an opportunity to come out with some sort of solution. So first case is we wanted to prevent accidents. Yes, okay. So how can we prevent accident is the moment we understand the exact process what is happening. So what's the reason for failure, we need to think of what is the reason for this particular occurrence of accidents, or should be thought of. So that is how the accidents can be prevented. So it plays a very, very central role in going ahead with, see, Accidents can never be classified like this, something life threatening and something only with respect to some physical damage. So accident has to be, injuries has to be dealt in a very crucial way, irrespective to the threat what it goes ahead with. So preventing accident is reason number 1. And reason number 2 is evaluate safety protocols. See, we run a very big automation, okay, which does plenty of tasks, but when we compromise with respect to safety means no, it cannot be accepted. Okay, so we need to evaluate the safety protocols. We should come out with some sort of new or innovative protocol in such a way that we ensure that nobody is getting no sort of, by any form, no resources is getting damaged by means of an accident. So risk assessment is the only platform which paves us way or which provides us an opportunity to do so. So we should have a thorough understanding of the safety protocol, and we should come out with some sort of newer mechanisms also. With time, safety protocols can also become outdated. Continuous risk assessment. So it is not a one-time activity. So it is going to be a continuous activity where we should identify the potential threats in the process, and appropriate modifications has to be done in the safety protocols so that we do not have any sort of compromising activities with the resources. So again, I stress it here, resources means don't have a conception that only human is a resource. No, entire activity, any equipment, any human, by any form, by any method, anything is going to be considered as a resource. Next, risk assessment. Under the process of risk assessment, the third thing is training employees. Yes, employees has to be trained. Say for example, today we are having an AGV and we operate for a period of time. Say after some few years, AGV is found to be outdated or it is not working based on the expectations. So we wanted to replace the AGV with AMR. Now AMR is quite versatile, and how can we expect people to be expertise in this regard means we should teach them. We should train them in this regard, and therefore training employees with respect to the assessed risk, whatever the risks we are quantified, that has to be clearly communicated, and the appropriate safety protocol has to also to be told to the employee so that the similar accidents do not occur in the near future. Safety of goods from damage. The damage is one particular thing which is not going to yield money, or in other terms it's a non-value added activity. Okay, as well you are going to lose the cost what we are supposed to gain out of the product. So damage is going to be one particular part which has to be seriously thought of. So the main purpose of warehouse is to store goods safely before they are distributed to customers. If the risks are not eliminated, products could face severe damage. Okay, so when you want to safely uh, maintain the product means obviously we are supposed to go for risk assessment. So prioritization of resources. So risk assessment gives a clear picture of the resources you need to prioritize in order to maintain the safety of workers and staff. So workers we have in our thing, so staff we have, as well equipments we have, so that has to be carefully thought of so that we are not losing any sort of resources. Okay, so high risk will be dealt in a different way, that means with utmost care, and low risk will be dealt with utmost care, but the priority will be little bit different. The next, how to do it? So the procedure is, the first is analyze the warehouse. Okay, so completely analyze what all are the injuries, what all are the potential risks what you find in the warehouse. Then evaluate the risks and hazards. So what might be the extreme cases if the risk still persists in the process? What will be the extreme hazard which can happen? Then eliminate the hazards. So one by one we can eliminate by means of adopting appropriate safety protocol and instead procedures to avoid them. So clearly maybe you can have a warning sign, we can give a proper training demo to the workers, and we must ensure that such risks are not going to occur in the near future. Okay, so these all are the steps how to do in detail. Okay, first is after identifying the hazard, we should determine who is at risk. So it do not mean that all the people are subjected to or susceptible to the risk. So only a small group will be having an affinity with respect to the group. So that group has to be identified and evaluate the risks based on the perspective of these people and record the observations, how it occurs with deliberately with their knowledge or without their knowledge, and review and update the protocols. And then the types of risks. So basically, though we have got plenty of risks, so usually the industrial practice is being classified under these four. So first is manual handling of goods. So manually you go and handle means obviously the 25.7% what we saw over extortion. Okay, so that comes into picture. So lifting up of a part beyond one's capacity. So likewise we can strategize. So first is going to be manual handling of goods. Second, slips and trips. Either you slip or you put something on RS. So some sort of tripping. So slipping and tripping or the second thing. Working at height. So when you go for an elevated surface, we should have a proper safety protocol and we should ensure that we are clinging to the surface by means of some safety ropes, and we should have proper personal protective equipments. And finally, fire hazards. So fire hazards is anytime it can happen unless and otherwise a proper safety protocol is not being followed. So these all are the different types of or four types of risks under which all the possible injuries or the things what we faced in the earlier can be summarized into. So to summarize finally, so risk assessment is one particular inevitable activity which is going to quantify and evaluate the risks and the possible counter hazards which we can expect in the due course. So that has been stratified and priority is given, and appropriate adoption of safety protocol we can overcome the risks. So with this we finish this particular topic and a complete third chapter in unit 3 we just finished, risk assessment. So thank you. Any doubts as usual, please note it down. We'll discuss in the offline classes. So thank you students. Thank you all.